Good evening. We're now going to call to order our September 27, 2018 council meeting. We're going to start by a lady I met, Miss Jamie Stevens. She's going to come up briefly and is going to tell us something interesting she's doing with the youth. Afterwards, she's going to lead us in the prayer and the pledge. Miss Stevens.
Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Jamie Lee Stevens. I've been invited here tonight to tell you about the youth theater program I started here in Murfreesboro, Acting Theater Group. Acting was founded in the spring of 2017 by me with the help of my dear friend Shane Lowry under the nonprofit umbrella of the Murfreesboro Little Theater. We operate as a nonprofit, community-based organization which aims to provide free educational, performance, and production experiences for actors ages 13 to 19. Our mission is to produce age-relevant art that puts teens and their stories center stage. Our first show launched in March of 2018, an updated production of the play Addict by Jerome McDonough, which centered on stories of children and young adults suffering from drug addiction. The cast and crew of 23 teens and adults gave moving performances, many of which were dedicated in memoriam of classmates and colleagues they had lost to drug and alcohol abuse. In this atmosphere, they were able to learn theater skills, grow as artists, create a community of peer support, and in many cases more fully process and grieve their recent losses. Since its close, I'm proud to say that video copies of the production have been in use in local high schools this year and last as part of theater and AP psychology courses. Our second season will open with auditions in December for Voices from the Shore by Max Bush, a play that provides an honest, at times humorous, and a very artful look at teens facing serious mental illness. It talks about the bonds and boundaries of friendship and the very real anxieties of graduating high school and becoming an adult. The show will open in March of 2019 at the Murfreesboro Little Theater. Other upcoming events for us include participation in Build Murfreesboro, the Habitat for Humanity fundraiser, volunteer readers theater for local hospice and children's hospitals, a young playwrights roundtable, and other workshops. Our vision for the future is to continue providing teens in the Murfreesboro community with free access to meaningful theater arts and experience, as well as the opportunity to grow as performers. I appreciate you letting me discuss our mission with you tonight.
Certainly.
At this time, I've been asked to lead in the opening prayer. God, tonight we gather as a community of friends and neighbors to recognize and discuss the accomplishments of our city, as well as its opportunities for growth and improvement. As we respectfully do so, let us call to mind the words of the Serenity Prayer. We ask that you grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mrs. Stevens. We wish you a lot of luck. It's very interesting. Thank you. We have our consent agenda before us. Any comments, questions? If not, can we get a motion and a second?
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Mrs. Wright, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. LaLance?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet?
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris?
Aye. Old business. Ordinance 180Z52 rezone approximately 17.5 acres along New Salem Highway and Warrior Drive, P218-423.
Move for approval.
Second.
Mrs. Wright, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. LaLance?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet?
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris?
Aye. Ordinance 18053 amend Murfreesboro City Code Appendix A zoning section 7, 9, 24, 26, 27, 31, and Chart 1 in those pertaining to responsibilities of Water Resources Board, Development Services Division, and Public Works Division 2018-802.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Wright, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye. Ordinance 18049, amend Chapter 32, Traffic, Section 32-1312, parking zones to revise the parking limit to 2 hours.
Move for approval.
Second.
Mrs. Wright, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye. Ordinance 18-0-54, amend 2018-2019 budget, First Amendment.
Move for approval.
Second.
Mrs. Wright, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye. New business. Ordinance 18-0-55, amend Chapter Administration 2, Section 2-76 to increase the Water Resources Board.
Mayor, this is, or Vice Mayor, this is pursuant to the mayor's request to increase the Water and Sewer Board from its current membership of 7 to 8 members.
Move for approval.
Second.
Mrs. Wright, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye. Resolution 18-R-28, dissolve Tennis Committee, Parks and Rec.
Yeah, I'll speak to that quickly. We put this committee together. I can't remember exactly who was here when that happened, but this was kind of in the building process of the Adams Tennis Facility and trying to formulate, how to build out the staffing and the business model and all those things, and then to get a group together to sort of see that into a start. And we've gotten a really good start there. Things are ahead of schedule and doing well on pretty well every account that you could expect. So I actually brought it up at the last tennis committee meeting to say, hey, is this something that we feel like we could be done with this and feel like the full Parks and Rec Commission could handle. And it was unanimous that everybody was agreeable to that. And so we voted, to have a resolution done for come to full council and just roll this up underneath Parks and Rec. I spoke to the Parks and Rec director and the director, whatever they call you now, Nate. Yeah, and sorry. And so everybody's on board. So just kind of get you clued into where we were on that. Okay. So with that, I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution.
So moved.
Mrs. Wright, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye. Resolution 18-R-29, compensate council liaison to the City School Board.
Mayor, this is, again, a mayor's request that we recognize the time and effort that it takes to be the council's liaison to a school board and a district that continues to grow in its size and complexity. So this would compensate commensurate with other boards in a nominal amount.
Move for approval.
Second.
Mrs. Wright, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Abstain.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye. Infinity Engineering Agreement for Patterson Natatorium HVAC System Upgrades, Parks and Recs.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. As we discussed a couple weeks ago in the council workshop, the HVAC and dehumidification system at Patterson Park is completely failed and has been that way for some time. The failure is beyond repair, needs just a comprehensive solution to address rust, humidity, air quality, and chloramine issues. So we've done a lot of extensive research, and we decided that Infinity Engineering has the proper experience to effectively address the project through proper design. The total cost of engineering services is $42,500, and we think that they will provide the best engineered solution for some of the issues we're having. So I'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions or comments? Could we get a motion and a second, please?
Move for approval.
Second.
Mrs. Wright, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. LaLance,
Aye.
Mr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet,
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman,
Aye.
Mr. Wade,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye. Thank you. Boards and appointments. Gateway Commission, reappoint Mr. Harold Yoakley, Mr. Philip Seagraves, and Mr. Rick Sane for another 3-year term ending 10/1/2021. Mrs. Wright, beer permits.
We need
Do we
a
get a
motion.
Yeah.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, guys. Mrs. Wright, will you
Mr.
call the
Wa-
roll, please?
Mr. LaLance,
Aye.
Mr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet,
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman,
Aye.
Mr. Wade,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye. Now, Mrs. Wright.
We do have a couple beer permits tonight. We have a new owner at a restaurant at 2805 Old Fort Parkway, Suite Inn. And we also have a new location at 116 North Walnut that's going to be a venue for events. The restaurant and the event venue both need to finish up their building codes inspections, but otherwise they have met our requirements for approval, and we would issue that permit once those final requirements are met if you approve it tonight.
Thank you, Mrs. Wright. Any questions or comments? If not, can we get a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Wright, will you call the roll?
Mr. LaLance,
Aye.
Mr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet,
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman,
Aye.
Mr. Wade,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Vice Mayor, if we could back up just one, I'll point out to council that they have on the dais recommendation by the mayor. There's no action required, but just to remind council, a recommendation for appointment to the Cable Television Commission of Roseanne Barton for consideration at a future meeting.
Thank you. Other statements. Do we have any statements to be paid?
We do not.
Other business. Mrs. Wright.
I have one I'm bringing forward for the Technology Engagement Center. The letter I presented to you gives you a history of what we've paid on that and the funding sources of which we're involved in. There are others from the county that went straight to the library to manage. They've asked for remaining construction funds to be used for furnishings. I did look at the Christy Houston grant. That is a use of the funds in addition to the construction. It looks like right now we're going to have about $131,000 left when we pay the final construction bills. And so if you approve this tonight, I'll have Ms. Shacklet send me bills such as this, and I will do a check for these amounts and let them pay the bill because we did not order the furniture, so it's not under our purchasing policy. But I will send the check to them for the amount that they give me bills for.
Okay.
That's right.
Yes.
Just to make sure I understand this. Are we, the portion of funds that we spent towards the project, the tech center project, does that go towards, I mean, I guess I asked this in kind of two phases here. First phase would be, would this not just be kind of a reimbursement? We came back and asked council for more money for that particular project. We had agreed on a certain amount.
Right.
The bid came in higher than what we expected. We came back and asked the council for a higher amount. If you're saying that we got money left over, why wouldn't we use that just to reimburse and just reduce the higher amount that we came up with? I guess would be kind of phase one, and phase two of that would be, does the money that we committed to them, does that go towards the library? I don't know what it's called, but where, once you give money to a library, a certain year, you can never reduce the amount that the municipality goes.
Do we
Yeah,
have that
maintenance
for
of effort.
libraries? I'm not aware that we have that.
So I
But
guess
the
so for the first question then would be,
Well, the project as a whole, Christy Houston gave a certain amount of money for construction and for furnishings, and as did the county. We gave an additional amount, and as you said, when the bid came in higher, we pledged more funds to finish the building. So the library is counting on the Christy Houston money to have enough money to finish the furnishings plus the technology that they're going to be buying. And that came as a package, is my understanding. Mr. Crumley worked with them more at the beginning of the project, but my understanding is that that was how that was set up. So
It wasn't part of the bid. I mean, I guess if it was part of the original package, I guess I'm wondering why we have to
Well,
approve it.
all of the Christie Houston money, we will own the building. It's on our land, and we'll own the building. The furnishings will belong to the library, and they'll replace those with the technology as time goes by. But this money, the Christie Houston money, we actually don't have it all yet. $500,000 is still to be given to us. It's pledged. We've received the $600,000, and so we've paid for the construction out of our money and part of Christie Houston's money. So this other money we don't have yet. We would be fronting it, and I did put that in the letter, but it will help to complete the project, which had a budget at the beginning as to what they would be needing.
The furnishings that are already in the tech center,
I'm not sure what's there. The bill that's attached is the first bill that I've seen so far. I would imagine there are others to come.
I mean, $130,000 seems like a lot for furnishings. In addition to what I've already seen in there, I mean, all the desks and everything are already in there.
I assume there's technology, and the furnishings is for everything they need to be up and going. So this particular bill attached is $101,821. So that would come out of the 131 if you approve it tonight. And then the difference between that and the 131 would be what we don't have a bill for yet.
Ms. Wright, can I ask a question? Is this over and above the original budget for the furnishings for the technology center, or do we know?
I don't know. I wasn't involved with the part setting up of the budget. The part we're paying for out of our money, our regular money, and the bond money is the building, the construction, the part we keep. Mm-hmm. The difference of the Christie Houston money plus what Rutherford County gave is going towards the furnishings and the technology.
Okay.
It's in their budget. This was part of the plan from the very beginning.
That's what I was getting to, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm on the committee, and I may have missed the last board meeting. I can't recall. This has been a couple months since I've been at one. I don't remember if it was the last one or the one before that, but sorry, I'm just not familiar with this.
Is
to
this
be able to help.
invoice, is this part of a low bid contract?
I can't answer any questions about the actual purchase of the furniture. We were involved in the funding at the very beginning, and we're still within the total funding originally set for the building.
Let's do this, because I don't. There's nothing here that expresses that it's an emergency. So why don't we go back and get an accounting on the construction and what the funds are to be used for and such as that. We can provide a more detailed accounting. Ask the library to provide a more detailed accounting, and then bring that back.
I mean, it's got an invoice back here with it, so I guess that may be a more detailed accounting. I just want to make sure if
I think that's
the first request of the remaining funds, and my intent was to give them funds if you approved it based on invoices they turn in to show what they're spending the money on.
But I think
I wasn't just going to write a check for the whole remainder.
I think your question though is it part of the FF&E for the building?
It
original.
is not in the contract from the contract.
So then
It is outside that.
We could get an accounting for it, and perhaps by then the Christie Houston funds would come in. We wouldn't even need to front the money. But if we can get an accounting and have the questions that are being asked, which are good questions, and bring that back to council, I think that would be appropriate.
Okay. Yeah, that would make me feel a little bit better about it.
Yeah.
It's if there's no big hurry, and I'm sure I can have an opportunity to talk with
Right.
some of the members too before that.
That might be the best.
Okay, thanks.
Do you want to tell me, you want to send me an email what your questions are so
Sure.
I can send them to them?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess in addition to the questions that have already been asked, but I'll get in touch with you for sure.
Okay.
Okay, on the other business, Mr. Crumley?
The York Veterans Administration has 52 buildings and just over 1 million square feet of space just outside the city limits. The city has contracted with the VA for 18 years to provide fire service at the facility. Before you tonight is a new contract for the next fiscal year, federal fiscal year. It runs until September 30 of 2019. It's for $1,036,000. Murfreesboro Fire and Rescue would continue to provide the same services they have for the last 18 years in case there's a need at the York VA. There are still a few contract items, nothing substantial. Most of it's technical and cleanup of language yet to be performed, but we believe it's ready for your consideration.
Any questions?
Unless there's further discussion, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Mrs. Wright, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. LaLance?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet?
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris?
Aye. Is there any other business?
None here.
If not, we stand adjourned.